12 regional TV stations have been put on notice after a new report found they'd failed to meet local content obligations last year. All regional operators must air 1,400 hours of Australian programmes each year, but the broadcast regulator, the ACMA, has found many stations are falling short for the second year in a row. With more, here's Matt Diener, CEO of Screen Producers Australia. Hi there, Matt. So what's your reaction to this news overall?
Look, we were really surprised and quite shocked about this because it's an obligation that's sat around for quite a while, and it's for some of them, the stations that breached the obligation, it was almost a third of the obligation that sits on their secondary channel. And so what that does is it undermines the whole system of content delivery to Australian audiences, which is part of the contract between these broadcast licence holders and the government. So it's a significant issue, and it also flows into the industry in a big way because this is about then the amount of runs for content, the amount of times that our shows that we're creating for people are viewed, and it also then flows into employment and other creative industry strains that we can talk about in a little detail.
Is this about cost?
Look, I think there's actually a lack of care that's happened in this instance, and I think there's another secondary issue that's occurred in the information that we've received from the regulator, that the broadcasters are substituting increasingly so Australian content for New Zealand content, which is cheaper second-run content, and that's to do with cost. I think the breach of licence is probably a lack of care, which is also quite concerning because there isn't a huge amount of licence obligations, but these are the significant ones.
Yeah, that is one of the issues that for the metro areas, New Zealand programmes qualify as local content, don't they?
Yes, under our closer economic agreement with New Zealand, there's an opportunity for the broadcasters to substitute New Zealand content, and that really wasn't a problem until a few years ago when they started to do it significantly and hiding that fact really on the schedule. And I think that's going to be an increasing issue because Australians will not be able to see their stories, they'll see New Zealand stories, and for the industry that relies on these commissions from the broadcasters, there's hundreds of millions of dollars that are getting lost in the system as a consequence of this. And it comes at the same time as the broadcasters have received a whole heap of licence relief funding, millions of dollars given back to them by the government, and the promise of that exercise from government was that they would be delivering more Australian content. And the obvious analysis of this is that they haven't done that, and that's really concerning. It also comes at the time when we're waiting for the government to respond to a whole heap of Australian content reviews, in particular the one that the government's called, which hopefully will address some of these issues. But at the same time, we're sort of concerned that the regulator's treating this quite lightly, and it really hasn't gone, I think, hard enough in terms of really what's happened here.
Do you mind what the local programming is, whether it's panel shows or quiz shows, which are cheaper to make rather than more expensive drama?
Look, our members look after all of the content that appears on television. So we have people that make the panel shows, people that make reality shows, people that make the dramas and the children's content. I think that the area that we're mostly concerned about at the moment is that the broadcasters, in amongst all of these concerns, have asked the government to remove their obligations to show children's content. And that's a really important part of the mixture of content that is made, delivered to Australians, is trained in terms of the type of people that work in our industry. And if you remove one part of the pie, you also have a lot of problems across the rest of the industry. So that is something that we want to have addressed as part of these ongoing reviews.
Matt Diener, thank you.
Thank you.